Welcome to the MACE Data Paths Elevation Data tutorial. In this tutorial, we will discuss types of elevation data and how to configure MACE with elevation data. When you run MACE for the first time, you will want to install elevation data. MACE supports a variety of elevation data sources including DTED, SRTM, GeoTIFF height maps, MVR simulations, VERSIG elevation data, and BSI's armor elevation. MACE elevation reading is done via plugins, so additional sources may be available depending on the installation. If your installation media or download site include the DTED installer, download the installation file, then run the installer. You will need to tell MACE where to find your elevation data. To do this, click the View tab on the main menu and click on the System Settings button. The MACE System Settings window will appear. Click on the Data Path tab and then click the Elevation Data sub-tab. You will see the current elevation search paths, and the order from top to bottom reflects the search priority for MACE. You can just drag a row up or down to raise or lower the elevation type's search priority at runtime. To add DTED to your search path, click the Configure button on the DTED row. This will bring up the DTED configuration window. Click the Select button to select your DTED search path, then point to the source of the data. The order of these paths do not matter. Please note that it is fine to point directly to a parent folder that contains multiple DTED levels. When finished adding or removing search paths, click the X button to close the window. Once indexed, you will see the total file count of the files you just added. To configure MACE to read GeoTIFF or CDB elevation data, click Configure on the CDB line. This will open the CDB configuration window. Ensure recursive search is selected, and then click the Select button. This will open a directory search window. Navigate to and click on your CDB data. If you have other CDB elevation data, you may need to select CDB and not recursive search, depending on the format of your directory structure. When finished adding CDB data, click the X button to close the window. Once indexed, you can see the total number of elevation tiles and water tiles. If you are using VERSIG as your IG, MACE can use the MDS terrain data as an elevation source. To configure MDS as your elevation source, click the Configure button on the VERSIG row. In the VERSIG configuration window that opens, press Select and point to the VERSIG terrain folder. When complete, press X to close the window. MACE is also able to read elevation data directly from armor terrain. This may be useful if the use case is primarily centered around armor and wider area conventional terrain data is not available. To do this, click the Configure button on the armor line. In the armor terrain configuration window that opens, click the Browse button. Point to your armor elevation data and click OK. The HM10 plugin will recursively search any folder defined within the HM10 configuration window. It will then use any identified .hm10 terrain tiles as an elevation source. When finished, click the X to close the window. In the event that there is redundant elevation coverage, you still have to tell MACE which elevation data source to prioritize. In this case, we will set armor as our priority elevation source. Once finished loading all your elevation sources and setting your priorities for elevation, click the OK button at the bottom right corner of the window. Note that when you move your mouse around in the Mace mission area, it will tell you which elevation source is being used. This can be found at the bottom of your window on the status bar. To prevent excessive memory consumption, Mace will only load DTED 0 data without entities present. For other elevation sources to be read, an entity must be present within the mission area or within the general vicinity. With a mission running, you can see that armor is the primary elevation source. If you are using an IG terrain data as the elevation source, it is a good idea to add DTED 0 or DTED 1 if you have it to your elevation data paths. This enables Mace to give you a rough elevation as you move your mouse around the map where entities aren't present, and allows Mace to fall back on DTED if your entities are outside of the available IG region. This concludes the Mace Data Paths Elevation Data tutorial. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us at support@bssim.com.